My daughter did not accidentally forget to invite me to her wedding. She searched through the photographs on her phone until she found one where I was wearing my stained work jacket. She printed it. She drew a thick black line across my face. Then she gave it to security with 3 words beneath it: "Do not admit." I arrived carrying the pearl earrings that had belonged to her mother. My only suit hung behind the seat of my old pickup truck. The security guard looked at the rust along the wheel well and told me my daughter was afraid I would embarrass her important guests. Then Rachel texted me, "Dad, please leave before Blake's family sees you. I need today to look perfect." I did not yell. I did not beg her to reconsider. I turned my truck around, drove back down the mountain, and made one phone call. 4 hours later, the luxury bar had never opened. The band was packing its instruments, and the elegant woman my daughter had just called Mom stood in front of every guest and admitted that she had never met the groom before the rehearsal dinner. That was the moment Rachel finally understood something I should have taught her years earlier. You cannot erase the man who built your life and still expect him to keep paying for the picture. My name is Daniel Mercer. Most people call me Dan. I was 71 years old when my only daughter decided that my presence was less valuable than the appearance of having a perfect family. I lived outside Knoxville, Tennessee, in a cedar-sided house on 8 acres of sloping land. The porch leaned slightly toward the east because my late wife Susan and I had built it during a rainy spring when neither of us knew enough about drainage. I knew how to fix it. I never did. The dip in the floorboards reminded me of the afternoon Susan dropped a level into the mud, blamed me for placing it too close to the edge, and then laughed so hard she had to sit down on a stack of lumber. To anyone else it was a crooked porch. To me, it was proof that she had once stood there. I drove a 2004 GMC Sierra with a dent in the rear bumper and a heater that worked much better than the air conditioner. The truck had carried electrical conduit ceiling fans, ladders, drywall, groceries, Christmas trees, and one frightened teenage girl home from a party she regretted attending. Rachel hated that truck. She said it smelled like copper wire and old coffee. She was right. I kept driving it anyway. A vehicle had one job as far as I was concerned: start when you turned the key and bring you home when the work was finished. That truck had done both for 22 years. My hands looked older than the rest of me. The skin was rough around the knuckles, and there were thin, pale scars across 3 fingers from 40 years of commercial electrical work. My left thumbnail had never grown straight after a service panel cover slipped and crushed it in 1993. Rachel used to love those hands. When she was 6, she would sit in my lap and ask me to show her which scars came from which buildings. When she was 11, she trusted those hands to hold the back of her bicycle seat while she learned to ride. When she was 19 and crying in a hospital hallway after her mother died, she held them so tightly I lost feeling in 2 fingers. "Don't leave me too," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere, I promised." For 12 years, I kept that promise in every way I knew. I answered every call. I fixed every broken appliance. I paid every bill she could not quite manage. I drove across 2 states when she said she was lonely. I treated every crisis as something a father should remove before it could hurt his child. I believed that was love. I did not understand that rescuing someone from every consequence can eventually teach them that consequences belong to other people. Rachel was 32 when she married Blake Sutton. She worked as a brand director for a high-end furniture company in Richmond, Virginia. She was good at her job. She could photograph an ordinary living room and make it look like a place where no one had ever argued, spilled coffee, or worried about the electric bill. She understood light, color, and aspiration. She also understood exactly how to hide anything that did not fit the image. By the time she met Blake, that skill had moved beyond her work. It had become the way she lived. Blake claimed to be a boutique hotel developer. According to him, he restored neglected inns and transformed them into luxury destinations for wealthy travelers. He used phrases like heritage hospitality, private equity, and experiential design. He wore soft leather shoes that had never touched mud. He drove a silver Range Rover that was always too clean. He knew the names of expensive wines, but could not replace a light switch without turning off power to the entire house. The first time Rachel brought him to meet me, he arrived carrying a bottle of bourbon and a small box of pastries from a bakery in Nashville. He shook my hand firmly. "Mr. Mercer, Rachel talks about you all the time. Only the flattering parts, I hope. Mostly about how hard you worked." He said it with warmth. That mattered. Manipulative people rarely begin with contempt. They begin by studying the things you value and speaking as though they value them too. Blake asked about Susan. He listened while I described how we had started Mercer Building Services from the back room of a closed hardware store. He complimented the cedar walls of my house. He noticed the old photograph of Susan standing beside our first service van. "She looks strong," he said. She was. "Rachel has that. For one evening, I liked him. That still embarrasses me." Blake did not begin by calling my house outdated. He called it authentic. He did not ask how much the land was worth. He asked whether the view had changed since I bought it. He did not ask what Rachel might inherit. He asked how a man built a regional maintenance company from one van. Then, once he understood what mattered to me, the questions changed. "How many acres did you say you had?" 8. "Land this close to Knoxville must be valuable." "It is valuable to me." "Of course. I mean from an investment standpoint. I don't measure my home that way." He smiled. "Sentiment is a luxury successful people can afford." At the time, the sentence sounded like praise. Later, I understood that Blake never admired anything unless he believed it could be converted into money. During his second visit, he walked the property without asking. I found him near the lower fence line taking photographs with his phone, looking for something, just imagining possibilities. "For whose property?" He laughed. "You're protective. It's mine." "Exactly. You've earned the right to make it work harder for you." The land already worked hard. It held the house Susan and I built, a small barn, a vegetable garden, a creek where Rachel used to catch minnows in a plastic cup. Blake saw only square footage. A month later, Rachel called and suggested I sell. "You don't use all that land," she said. "I live on it. You live in the house. The rest is just sitting there." Land is allowed to sit. Blake knows a developer who could divide it into luxury lots. "I'm not interested. You could make a fortune." "I have enough," she sighed. "Dad, sometimes you act like money is dirty." "No, I act like it isn't God." "That's dramatic." "So is trying to sell a man's home before he is dead." She ended the call. 2 hours later, she sent a message saying I had humiliated her in front of Blake. That became a pattern. Whenever I questioned him, I embarrassed Rachel. Whenever I refused an investment, I was being negative. Whenever I defended the life Susan and I had built, I was trapped in the past. Blake never told Rachel to despise me directly. He taught her to reinterpret everything I represented. My old truck became proof that I lacked ambition. My house became proof that I feared change. My work clothes became proof that I did not understand successful people. My stories about struggling when she was young became something that might embarrass her in front of sophisticated guests. The change happened slowly enough that I kept explaining it away. Rachel had always wanted more than the life she grew up in. That did not bother me. Susan and I wanted more for her too. We wanted her to have choices. We wanted her to enter rooms we had never seen and believe she belonged there. What we failed to teach her was that entering a better room did not require pretending the first one had never existed. The wedding was supposed to take place at Willow Ridge Orchard outside Charlottesville, Virginia. The property included a restored stone farmhouse, an apple orchard, a glass reception pavilion, and an old cider barn overlooking the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was beautiful, but not the kind of place only celebrities could afford. Most couples saved for years. Some chose weekday ceremonies or smaller guest lists. Rachel wanted a Saturday in September, the most requested weekend of the year. She sent me photographs late one evening. "Dad, look at the mountain view. Dad, look at the glass pavilion. Dad, imagine the pictures at sunset." She always mentioned pictures before memories. I knew Willow Ridge well. Mercer Building Services had rewired the farmhouse, restored the heating systems, and installed the emergency lighting when the property was renovated 9 years earlier. The owner, a woman named Mara Ellis, had nearly lost the orchard after her husband died. She had experience running events, but not enough money to complete the restoration. I invested, not because I dreamed of owning a wedding venue, because Susan had loved old buildings, and because Mara had been one of our first commercial clients. I owned 40% of Willow Ridge. Mara owned 40. Two smaller investors held the rest. Rachel knew I had a few business interests. That was the phrase she used when she wanted to acknowledge my money without asking how I had earned it. She had never asked who owned Willow Ridge. When she and Blake toured it, I stayed away. I did not want her choosing the property because she thought her father could arrange special treatment. 3 days after the tour, she called me crying. The date is going to disappear. What happened? The deposit is due tomorrow. I thought Blake's family was paying. Their money is tied up in a hotel closing. What hotel? Dad, I don't know. Something confidential. How much do you have? A long silence followed. Blake thinks it would be irresponsible to pull cash out of his projects. What about your savings? We need that for our future. I should have asked what future they planned to build if neither of them could pay a deposit. Instead, I called Mara and covered it. Rachel promised Blake's family would reimburse me. They never did. The second payment came due. Then catering. Then the photographer. Then flowers. Every time Blake had an explanation. A property closing had been delayed. An investor was traveling. A bank had placed a routine hold on funds. His father's accountant was restructuring an account. Rachel always called after she'd been crying. I always paid. Not because I believed Blake, because I loved my daughter. There is a point where love and fear begin wearing the same clothes. I feared that refusing would push Rachel closer to him. I feared she would say I was trying to control her. I feared she might marry him at a courthouse and disappear from my life. So I kept solving this problem in front of me and ignoring the larger one being built behind it. The ceremony reception pavilion and standard dinner package were paid in full. What remained were upgrades Blake added during the final month. A premium whiskey and champagne bar, a 7-piece band, a plated steak and seafood dinner instead of the standard buffet, a cigar patio, late-night food service, private buses to 3 hotels, a farewell brunch the next morning. Those extras totaled a little over $36,000. Blake promised to pay the final upgrade balance immediately before the reception. Mara did not trust him. Neither did I. I allowed my personal card to be listed as backup. I told myself I was protecting Rachel from a last-minute disaster. I did not understand that I was helping Blake build the illusion that his money was paying for everything. 1 week before the wedding, Rachel and Blake visited me. I was repairing the motor on an old shop fan in the barn. Blake arrived in the Range Rover. Rachel stepped out wearing cream pants and shoes that sank immediately into the soft ground. She looked at the barn. Dad, you knew we were coming. I did. You could have changed. I'm fixing a fan. Blake glanced toward the house. Still haven't considered the development proposal. Number. You haven't even seen the numbers. I don't need to see the price of something I'm not selling. Rachel sighed. Can we please have one visit without this becoming difficult? I didn't bring it up. Blake smiled as though we were sharing a joke. Your father likes to make me work. A little work won't hurt you. His smile disappeared for half a second. Then it returned. We went inside. I made iced tea. While I poured it, Blake studied a framed photograph of Susan standing beside our first white service van. That van must have been rough. It got us through 6 winters. Rachel laughed. Mom said the heater stopped every time it rained. It did. I can't believe you drove around like that. We were building a company. Blake looked toward my truck outside. Some habits are hard to break. Rachel smiled. I placed the pitcher down. What does that mean? Blake raised one hand. It was a joke. No. It was an insult you wanted to test. Rachel's expression tightened. Dad, he comes into my house, talks about selling my property, and laughs at how your mother and I lived. He was teasing. Did you find it funny? She did not answer. Blake leaned back. I respect what you built, Daniel. Then stop trying to convert it into your next project. The room went quiet. Rachel looked at him. Then at me. She chose him. Maybe you should try respecting the life I'm building. I would if I could see the foundation. Blake stood. We should leave. Rachel followed him to the door. Before stepping outside, she turned toward me. About the wedding. Yes, Blake's family is very formal. So I've heard. They are connected to important people. I'll try not to arrest anyone. This is what I mean. What? You turn everything into a joke when you're uncomfortable. I almost laughed at the irony. Instead, I waited. She continued. Please don't tell stories about the first van, the motel jobs, or how broke you and Mom were. Why? It makes people uncomfortable. It happened. It does not have to become the center of every conversation. I wasn't planning a speech. And please wear actual dress shoes. My boots polish better. Dad, they're black. They're work boots. They've carried me farther than most dress shoes. Rachel looked tired or ashamed. At the time, I told myself it was wedding stress. I just need everything to go smoothly, she said. I understand. No, you don't. She left. 3 days later, she called to ask whether I could bring several wooden table numbers from the Richmond warehouse because the rental company had shipped the wrong set. Of course. Could you use the vendor entrance? Why? The front drive will be crowded. I should have understood then. Instead, I told myself she was managing logistics. Parents can explain almost any cruelty when they are desperate to preserve the child they remember. On the wedding morning, I left home before sunrise. My dark gray suit hung behind the passenger seat. It was the same suit I wore to Susan's funeral. I had considered buying another. Then I decided the woman I loved would not mind sharing one more important day. The pearl earrings were inside a small velvet box in my coat pocket. They had belonged to Susan's mother. Susan wore them at our wedding. Before she died, she placed the box in my hand. Give these to Rachel when she gets married. She'll want something newer. She can buy something newer. What if she doesn't like them? Susan smiled weakly. They aren't about what she likes. What are they about? Remembering who stood behind her before anyone stood beside her. I had imagined fastening them in Rachel's ears while she sat in front of the bridal mirror. I had imagined telling her that her mother would have been proud. I had imagined walking her down the aisle with Susan's absence between us, painful but shared. Instead, I reached Willow Ridge shortly before 11 and found a security guard standing in the entrance road. His name was Aaron. He was perhaps 25, broad-shouldered and uncomfortable in a dark jacket that did not fit the warm September morning. He raised his palm. Vendors use the east entrance. I'm not a vendor. His eyes moved toward my truck. I could see him reading the faded lettering on the door. Mercer Building Services. I'm Daniel Mercer, father of the bride. He stopped, then glanced toward the security booth. One moment. He returned carrying a plastic folder. Inside was a photograph. My photograph. Rachel had taken it the previous Christmas while I was standing outside the workshop holding a cordless drill. I was wearing jeans, a brown canvas coat, and an old baseball cap Susan had bought me. A black line had been drawn across my face. Beneath it were the words, "Do not admit without approval from Rachel Mercer or Blake Sutton." Someone had written underneath, "May arrive in old company truck. Do not allow near main house or guest parking." My hands tightened around the steering wheel. Is there a problem? Aaron asked. There seems to be. I was told there had been a family disagreement. I'm supposed to walk her down the aisle. He looked genuinely uncomfortable. I was told the plan changed. Who told you? The wedding coordinator sent the notice. The bride and groom both confirmed it. My phone vibrated on the passenger seat. Rachel. For one hopeful second, I thought she was calling to ask where I was. It was a text. Dad, please don't make a scene. I saw your truck on the entrance camera. Blake's parents and several investors are already here. They are very traditional people, and they won't understand the truck, the boots, or your stories about doing repair work in cheap motels. I need today to feel elegant. Please go home. I'll send you the professional photographs. A second message arrived. Leave the table numbers with security. I read both messages 3 times. She did not ask whether I had driven safely. She did not mention the earrings. She did not say she was sorry. She wanted the table numbers. She did not want the man who had brought them. Aaron cleared his throat. Mr. Mercer, what exactly were you told to do if I refused to leave? His eyes shifted. Call the sheriff. Did my daughter say I might become violent? She said you could be emotional. Emotional. I had held my wife's hand while she died. I had stood beside electrical panels carrying enough current to kill a man before he could feel pain. I had told 23 employees that the business would survive a recession when I was not sure it would survive the month. But my daughter had warned a stranger that I might become emotional because she was afraid I would walk into her wedding wearing polished work boots. I opened the back of the truck. 6 wooden table numbers were stacked beside my garment bag. Each had been cut and stained by one of my former shop foremen after Rachel said the rental replacements looked cheap. Aaron stepped forward. I can help. Number. I carried them to the booth myself. When the last box was placed inside, I closed the truck. Tell Rachel they arrived. I will. And tell her I understood. Aaron looked at the photograph. For what it's worth, sir, this doesn't feel right. It isn't your decision. Number. Neither was driving this truck. She asked me to bring those. His face changed. He finally understood. I returned to the driver's seat. The velvet box rested in my pocket. I held it for a moment, then placed it in the glove compartment. I replied to Rachel, I understand exactly what you want. Aaron moved the temporary barrier. I could have driven toward the house. As an owner, I could have called Mara and demanded access. I could have made a public scene before the ceremony. But Rachel had already made her choice. She had looked at the truck, my clothes, my work, and my entire life. Then she had drawn a line across my face. I turned around and drove away. I made it 8 miles before pulling into a scenic turnout. The mountains stretched across the horizon, blue beneath the September sky. Susan and I had brought Rachel to a similar overlook when she was 10. She climbed onto the stone wall and spread her arms. One day everyone will know who I am, she announced. Susan stood behind her ready in case she slipped. She wants to be bigger than the mountain, she whispered. We were proud. We did not understand that ambition without gratitude can become another kind of hunger. I removed an envelope from my jacket. Inside was a personal check for $30,000. My wedding gift, a down payment for a small house. Blake had already suggested investing it in an inn conversion outside Savannah. Rachel told me the money could triple. I asked for the property address. Blake said the deal was confidential. I wrote void across the check. Then I returned it to the envelope. I did not throw it into the wind. Somebody else would have to clean it up. Next, I called Mara. She answered immediately. Dan, where are you? Rachel is asking whether the table numbers arrived. They arrived. And you? I was refused entry. There was silence. What? My photograph is at the gate. Dan, I'm going down there. Number. I will bring Rachel outside myself. No, Mara. My voice stopped her. I looked through the windshield at the mountain road. Run Blake's payment card for the upgrade balance. Your card is listed as backup. Remove it. Dan, the ceremony venue and standard dinner are paid. No one will be thrown out. No one will go hungry. But the premium bar band, plated dinner, and transportation will be canceled. They were never paid for. Blake promised to handle them. Then let him. Rachel will be humiliated. I was just handed a photograph of myself with a line through my face. That is not the same audience. No, mine was smaller. Mara exhaled. I'm sorry. So am I. Are you sure? Number. It was the truth. I was not sure. I was angry, humiliated, heartbroken, more alone than I had felt since Susan died. But a boundary does not become wrong simply because enforcing it hurts. I am not asking you to punish her, I said. I am asking you to stop charging her choices to me. What if Blake's card clears? Give them everything they ordered. And if it doesn't, give them what they actually paid for. Mara remained quiet. Dan, you love her. That is why I have spent 32 years making every fall soft. I looked at the voided check. I think soft landings taught her she could push anyone else off the edge. Mara promised to run the card. I ended the call. Then I drove into a small town and parked outside a diner called Bluebird Kitchen. The building had blue vinyl booths, a pie case near the register, and framed photographs of high school football teams along one wall. A waitress with silver hair approached carrying a coffee pot. She looked at my suit, then at my face. Wedding, my daughter's. You're early. I'm not going. Her expression changed. Coffee, please. Black. Yes, good. Cream won't fix that look. Despite myself, I smiled. She filled the cup. My name's Marlene. Dan, you waiting for someone? Number. Then I'll bring soup before you pretend you aren't hungry. She left before I could answer. My phone vibrated. Mara. First card declined. Another message followed. Blake says it is a fraud alert. Trying a second. I placed the phone face down. Around me, ordinary people lived ordinary lives. A boy complained about green beans. An elderly couple divided a piece of coconut pie. Two electricians in work shirts laughed about a helper who had drilled through a water pipe. No one cared what anyone had driven. No one removed family members because they did not match the furniture. Marlene brought chicken soup. You look like you got bad news you already expected. That's about right. She started to walk away, then stopped. People who are ashamed of honest work usually haven't done enough of it. She returned to the counter. I looked at my hands. Rachel used to ask about every scar. Blake once called them authentically blue collar. He said it as though I were an interesting decoration in a themed restaurant. Rachel laughed. I had ignored that moment, because fathers become skilled at making small excuses for the people they love. My phone vibrated again. Second card declined. Blake says his father will pay after the ceremony. His father, Charles Sutton. I had met Charles and his wife Vivian at the rehearsal dinner the night before. Charles wore a navy tuxedo and spoke about commercial properties in Charleston. Vivian wore silver and mentioned museum boards, European travel, and a family home near Hilton Head. Neither asked a single question about Susan. When Rachel introduced me, Vivian looked at my boots before looking at my face. So you do building maintenance, she asked. I founded a regional facilities company. How practical. Her words were polite. Her tone was not. Now, sitting in the diner, I opened a photograph Rachel's bridesmaid had posted from the bridal suite. Rachel stood in front of a mirror. Vivian was fastening a necklace around her throat. The caption read, "When your new mom makes sure every detail is perfect, my new mom." I enlarged the photograph. Charles looked familiar. I had seen him before, but not at a business conference. In a television commercial, one of our former senior living clients used an actor who played a retired banker learning ballroom dancing after moving into the community. I searched the commercial. The actor's real name was Martin Hale, not Charles Sutton. Once I had the name, Vivian was easy to find. Her real name was Judith Lane. She appeared in regional advertisements, training videos, and community theater productions. Both were represented by an agency called Distinguished Presence Talent, available for corporate events, private dinners, family role play, wedding appearances. I stared at the screen. Rachel had erased her real father to impress two strangers hired to sit in the front row. Marlene returned with the coffee pot. You look worse. The groom hired actors to play his parents. She stopped pouring. Come again. My daughter called one of them her new mother. Marlene sat across from me. Does she know? I don't think so. Are you going back? Every instinct inside me said yes. Drive to Willow Ridge. Push through the gate. Expose Blake before Rachel signed the marriage license. Save her. Then I remembered the declined call, the photograph, the message, the warning about my boots. If I arrived with proof, Blake would call me jealous. Rachel would agree. I would become the controlling father, trying to destroy her happiness. Facts are useless to someone whose identity depends on refusing to see them. I don't know, I said. Marlene leaned closer. Do you want advice from a stranger? Number. Good. I was going to give it anyway. I looked at her. Make sure you know the difference between saving your child from a bad person and saving her from admitting she chose one. What if she gets hurt? She already hurt you. That doesn't mean I want it returned. Number. Marlene sat back. It doesn't. At 1:15, Mara called. Blake's third card failed. And his father, he says Charles is on a confidential investment call with his acting agent. You found them. Yes. I gave her the real names. She searched while I waited. Oh my God. Does Rachel know? Number. What do you want me to do? Nothing before the ceremony. Dan, she has already refused to speak to me. She is about to marry a man who fabricated his parents. She is also an adult who rejected every question that threatened the fantasy. This could destroy her. I know. My voice broke. I covered my mouth until I could speak again. She doesn't deserve everything coming. But if I storm in now, she will help him throw me out again. What happens after the ceremony? Ask him for payment. And when he can't provide it, remove the unpaid upgrades. The guests will notice. They were always going to notice something eventually. The ceremony began at 2. I did not watch through the venue security system. I owned part of Willow Ridge, but I had never used its cameras to spy on private events. Rachel had said she did not want me there. I would not turn her wedding into something I watched secretly from an office. Instead, I sat inside a roadside diner and listened to ordinary life. At 2:46, a bridesmaid posted a video. I should not have opened it. Rachel walked down the aisle alone. Blake stood beneath an arch covered in white flowers. Martin and Judith sat in the front row. My chair was not empty. It had been removed. There was no gap where her father should have sat. No visible absence. The row had been rearranged, so no one would know I belonged there. An empty chair would have acknowledged that someone was missing. Rachel had redesigned the scene so I had never existed. I closed the video. Marlene placed a slice of pie in front of me. I didn't order this. I know. I'm not hungry. Then stare at it. I almost laughed. Instead, I cried. Quietly. The tears came without warning. Marlene sat across from me until they stopped. At 3:20, Mara sent a message. Ceremony finished. Blake still has no payment. Beginning the reception conversation. A minute later, Rachel called. For 32 years, I had answered almost every call. This time, I waited until the 4th ring. Dad, where are you? You know where I'm not. Her voice was tight. Mara says there's a problem with the reception upgrades. There is no problem. She says your backup card was removed. That's correct. You can't do that now. I already did. Behind her, guests were talking. Recorded string music played through the pavilion speakers. Rachel lowered her voice. Do you understand how embarrassing this is? I looked at Marlene. She raised one eyebrow. Yes, I said. I understand embarrassment. Dad, please don't turn this into revenge. Did you instruct security not to admit me? I was trying to prevent conflict. With whom? Blake's parents. The actors. Silence. What did you say? Martin Hale and Judith Lane are performers. They are not Blake's parents. That's ridiculous. Search their names. Blake said his family values privacy. They value an hourly rate. You're lying because you're hurt. I am hurt. That doesn't make me wrong. She breathed quickly. We can discuss this tomorrow. Tell Mara to continue everything. Number. What? The wedding and standard meal are paid. No one is being thrown out. But the premium bar band and upgrades were waiting on Blake's payment. He's handling it. His 3 cards were declined. His money is tied up. His money is imaginary. Stop! You asked me to stop being your father for one afternoon. I'm simply removing my money with me. That isn't fair. Was the photograph fair? Blake said his family would judge us. So you judged me first. I was under pressure. You selected the picture, Rachel. She became silent. That mattered. Blake may have suggested hiding me. Rachel had found the photograph. She had approved the instructions. She had pressed send. Please, she whispered. Everyone is looking at me. Then stop performing. I ended the call. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Marlene covered one of them with hers. You can still change your mind. I know. Will you? I looked at Rachel's name on the dark screen. Number. At Willow Ridge, Mara gave Blake 20 minutes to provide payment. During that time, the standard buffet remained covered in the kitchen. Water, tea, and soft drinks were available. The premium bottles stayed sealed. The band did not begin. The cigar patio remained closed. Guests entered the glass pavilion, expecting champagne and plated seafood. Instead, they found ordinary overhead lighting, recorded music, and printed cards saying dinner service had been delayed. Blake moved between Mara, the bar, and the head table while speaking rapidly into his phone. One of Rachel's bridesmaids, Ashley, began live streaming. At first, Rachel continued smiling. She told guests there was a small timing issue. Blake approached her. Handle your father. I called him, and he refused. You said he never refused you. Not here. You promised he would cover anything that went wrong. I didn't know he owned part of this place. Blake's face changed. Not surprise. Fear. He owns it. Part of it. How much? I don't know. You never know anything useful. Rachel flinched. Ashley's phone captured the moment. Mara approached. Mr. Sutton, we need a decision. We can open the standard buffet that has already been paid for. The additional services cannot begin without payment. Blake forced a smile. My father is arranging a transfer. Mara looked toward Martin and Judith. Perhaps he can provide a card. Martin lowered his glass. Judith looked at Blake. Their expressions no longer appeared aristocratic. They looked like employees whose job had become complicated. Blake walked to them and whispered. Martin shook his head. Judith opened her purse and removed a folded invoice. Rachel followed. What's happening? Nothing, Blake said. Can your father pay? Martin frowned. His father. Blake's eyes hardened. Not now. Judith unfolded the paper. Our booking ends at 4:30. The remaining fee is due before we leave. Rachel stared at her. What booking? Judith looked from Rachel to Blake. You didn't tell her. Blake stepped closer. We discussed discretion. We discussed a role, Judith answered. Not deceiving the bride. Rachel laughed once. A small, confused sound. What role? No one answered. Guests at nearby tables began listening. Ashley moved closer. Rachel looked at Judith. Vivian, my name is Judith. Number. I'm sorry. You're Blake's mother. Judith shook her head. I was hired to attend the rehearsal and wedding. Martin stood. So was I. Rachel looked at Blake. He raised both hands. This is being presented badly. Presented. My parents couldn't attend. I didn't want you to feel abandoned. You said they spent Christmas in London. They travel. You showed me family photographs. They were people I knew. You let me call her mom. Blake looked toward the phones. Rachel, lower your voice. Judith folded the invoice. For what it's worth, I believed you knew we were representing absent relatives for appearances. Rachel stared at her. I cried in your arms last night. I know. You said you always wanted a daughter. That was part of the role. Paid affection has an expiration time. Rachel discovered hers in front of 120 guests. Someone laughed. Not because it was funny, because disbelief sometimes escapes the body sounding like laughter. Then another person whispered, They're actors. Phones rose. A few guests filmed. Others looked away. An older woman moved toward Rachel and offered her a chair. Ashley continued live streaming. Turn that off, Rachel said. Ashley lowered the phone slightly. This is already live. You're my friend. I was your friend when you told everyone your father chose not to attend because he was unstable. Rachel froze. I didn't say unstable. You said emotionally unpredictable and uncomfortable around successful people. That was private. You said it at brunch in front of 10 people. Mara looked at Rachel. Several guests began whispering. Blake stepped between them. Enough. This situation was created by Daniel's need for control. Mara's expression hardened. Mr. Mercer paid every successful charge connected to this wedding. The pavilion became quiet. Blake turned toward her. That information is private. You are publicly demanding unpaid services. Mara faced the guests. The ceremony venue and standard dinner were fully paid. The remaining upgrades were scheduled against a payment method that is no longer available. The couple has been offered every service they actually purchased. A guest near the bar called, then served dinner. We will, Mara said. Rachel looked at the elegant printed menus. They promised beef tenderloin, sea bass, and truffle potatoes. The standard dinner was roasted chicken, pulled pork, green beans, potatoes, and rolls. There was nothing shameful about that meal. But Rachel had spent months convincing people she was entering a world where ordinary food was beneath the occasion. The difference between what she promised and what she paid for became impossible to hide. Blake climbed onto the small stage. Everyone, please relax. This is a temporary banking issue. Anyone familiar with private capital understands liquidity. The lobby declined your card for a $9 beer, Mara said. Laughter moved through the room. Blake's smile disappeared. You have no right to humiliate us. Mara looked at Rachel. Her father was shown a photograph of himself with a line drawn through his face. The room became completely still. Rachel's head snapped toward her. Mara, your guests deserve to know why the backup payment was removed. You promised this was private. No. Your father asked me not to expose you. Blake made it public when he accused him of sabotage. A woman near the front whispered, She banned her own father. Another answered, "The father who paid." Rachel turned toward the guests. "I didn't know he paid." The older woman beside her asked quietly, "Would it have been acceptable if he hadn't?" Rachel had no answer. Blake grabbed her arm. "Stop standing there. Call him again." He said no. "Then make him say yes." "How? You've been doing it your entire life." Rachel stared at him. "What does that mean? You cry. He pays. That's how this works." Her face changed. Not anger, recognition. Blake realized he had said too much. He looked toward the gift table. A white wooden card box sat beside the guest book. Rachel followed his gaze. "Why do you keep looking at the gifts?" "I'm not. You are. They should be secured." "They are secure. Not with people leaving." No one was leaving yet. They were watching. Blake moved toward the table. Rachel stepped in front of him. "What are you doing?" "Taking the box to the office." "Mara's office is the other way." His jaw tightened. "Do not start questioning me because your father embarrassed us." "My father didn't hire actors." "I did that for you." "No, you did it for the photographs." "You wanted the photographs." "I wanted a family." "You had one." The words escaped before he could stop them. Rachel stared at him. Blake continued quieter. "You had a father who would pay for anything. You told me that." "I told you he loved me." "You said he never let you fall." "That isn't the same thing. It was when we planned this." The older woman moved away. Ashley raised her phone again. Rachel looked at Blake. "What exactly did we plan?" "Not here." "Say it." "Rachel, say it." His composure cracked. "I built everything around what you told me your family had." "What does that mean?" "The land, the company, his investments." "You wanted my father's money." "I wanted us to have a future." "You asked him for $200,000. That was a real opportunity." "Did the hotel exist?" His silence answered. "Does your company own a single property?" He looked toward the exits. Rachel's voice fell. "Did you marry me because you thought Dad would fund you?" "That is an insulting simplification. Answer me." "I married you because I believed we had access." The word echoed through the pavilion. Access. Not love. Not partnership. Access. Blake's eyes shifted toward the card box again. Rachel put both hands on it. "Number. We need to secure the cash. I'll keep it. We're married. That doesn't make it yours." His voice lowered. "You have no idea what I owe." "How much?" "Not here." "How much, Blake?" He looked around, then grabbed his jacket. "I need air." He draped it over the box and lifted both together. Rachel stared at him. "You're taking it." "I'm moving it." "Under your coat." "People are filming. We need to leave." "You were leaving without me." Blake walked toward the service corridor. Aaron, the security guard, was standing near the loading exit. "Sir," he called. Blake kept walking. Aaron stepped in front of the door. "The box stays inside." "Move." "It belongs to the couple. I am the groom." "Then your wife can confirm you are taking it." Rachel was approaching. "What are you doing?" "I told you." "Securing it." "To where?" Blake's face twisted. "Do you understand nothing? I have obligations." "What obligations?" "People who expect payment." "Banks." "Not only banks." He did not need to say more. The fear in his eyes told Rachel that the wedding had never been a celebration. It was a collection day. The cash gifts. My investment. The land. The company. She was not a bride. She was a bridge he expected to cross into my accounts. Aaron took the box. Blake leaned toward Rachel. "You told me he was easy." "What?" "You said he would forgive anything." "I thought he loved me." "He does." "You're the one who wasted it." Rachel looked as though he had slapped her. Blake adjusted his jacket. "I built this entire marriage around what you said your family had. Without that, I don't know what we're doing." He said it like a businessman reviewing a failed investment. Rachel removed her engagement ring. For 1 second, hope crossed his face. He thought she was giving it to him. She placed it on the gift box. "Take the ring if it's real," she said. "Leave the money." His face hardened. Then he walked out through the service entrance. No one applauded. Real family tragedy rarely ends with cheering. It ends with people avoiding one another's eyes because they have seen something too private. The standard buffet opened 20 minutes later. Most guests did not eat. Some left because they were embarrassed. Some left because the luxury evening they expected had disappeared. A few stayed with Rachel. The older woman brought her water. One cousin helped move the gift box into Mara's office. Ashley kept recording until Mara ordered her to leave. Judith approached Rachel before departing. "I'm sorry," she said. Rachel looked at her. "Was anything you told me real?" Judith considered the question. "I really did think your dress was beautiful. That's all. I thought you seemed lonely. Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was being paid not to." The honesty hurt more than another lie. Martin stood beside her. "We'll handle our fee through the agency. You have enough problems." They left through the front entrance. Rachel had removed her real father to make room for people whose affection ended when their shift did. By 6:30, most guests were gone. Rachel changed into a Willow Ridge sweatshirt and gray pants borrowed from an employee. Her wedding dress was placed in a garment bag. Then she called me. I had left the diner and driven to the Mercer Building Services branch outside Charlottesville. The warehouse was closed. I sat in the small office above the shop floor, looking down at service vans parked in neat rows. My suit jacket was folded beside me. The pearl earrings remained in the glove compartment. My phone rang. "Dad." Rachel sounded young, not innocent, not yet fully sorry, just stripped of every performance. "Yes." Blake left. "I know. He tried to take the wedding money." "I know. His parents were actors." "Yes. Did you know before today? I recognized them after Ashley posted the photograph. Why didn't you come back?" The question carried accusation. Even then, part of Rachel searched for the person who should have prevented her choices. "You declined my call. You could have forced your way in. The guard had instructions from you. You own the venue. That does not give me the right to force myself into my daughter's wedding. You knew Blake was lying. I knew his company did not own the properties he showed me. I planned to speak to you after the wedding. You should have told me harder. Listen to yourself." She stopped. "You're asking why the father you banned did not break through security to save you from the man you chose over him." Her breathing became uneven. I didn't understand. "Number. I was under pressure. You selected the photograph." She began crying. "Dad, everyone is gone. Mara is there. I need you." My hand moved towards the truck keys. For 32 years, those words had controlled me. "I need you." I stood, picked up the keys, walked to the office door. Then I remembered the line across my face. The note about the truck, the missing chair. If I drove back, I knew what I would do. I would hold her, pay every remaining expense, explain Blake's behavior, silence the gossip, take her home. By morning, Rachel would remember me as the father who ruined the reception and rescued her afterward. Nothing would change. I put the keys down. "I love you," I said. "Then come get me. I can't fix tonight for you. Not again." She gasped. "What?" "I'll send Sam. He will take you somewhere safe. I want to go home." "You're not coming to my house tonight." Her crying stopped. "What do you mean?" "You'll have a clean apartment, food, and a locked door." "I'm your daughter." "Yes." "Then how can you say no?" "Because being my daughter means I won't leave you unsafe. It doesn't mean you can remove me when I embarrass you and call me back when you need my truck. I don't want your money. You called after the money disappeared. I called because my husband left me. You also asked why I didn't force my way through the gate you closed." She became silent. "Dad, please." The word almost broke me. I gripped the edge of the desk. "I want to come," I admitted. "Then come. I want to bring you home, make coffee, and tell you none of this was your fault." "It wasn't all my fault." "Number." Blake lied. "Yes. Then why are you punishing me?" "Because his lies don't erase your choices." She cried quietly. "You're safe. Mara is with you. Sam is on his way. It feels like you're abandoning me. That may be because I always made help feel like escape." I ended the call before my courage disappeared. Then I sat alone in the dark office and cried. Sam Whitaker had worked beside me for 26 years. He began as an apprentice electrician and retired as operations manager. He was 64, blunt, patient, and immune to performance. Rachel never liked him much because Sam did not laugh simply because she expected him to. He picked her up at 7:15. She sat in his passenger seat, holding the gift box. Halfway to Charlottesville, she said, "Dad hates me." Sam kept his eyes on the road. "Number." He refused to come. He nearly did. Rachel looked at him. "What?" He picked up his keys 3 times. "How do you know?" "He called me before I left." "Why didn't he?" Because every time you fall, your father breaks his back trying to become the floor. Rachel looked out the window. Sam continued, he isn't refusing because he stopped loving you. It feels that way. Consequences often feel like rejection to people who have always been rescued. They drove to a 2-story brick building on the edge of Charlottesville. Mercer Building Services had started there 38 years earlier. The first floor had once been a hardware store. Susan and I rented the back room for our office and kept supplies in the basement. We lived in the apartment upstairs during the first 4 years of our marriage. Rachel spent the first 18 months of her life in the small bedroom overlooking the parking lot. The first floor was now used for training and storage. The apartment had been renovated, but remained simple. 1 bedroom, a narrow kitchen, a second-hand couch, a small dining table, clean sheets, basic groceries, a working lock. It was not punishment. It was a safe beginning without luxury. I was waiting at the kitchen table when Sam opened the door. Rachel entered slowly. She looked at me, then at the room. This is where you're putting me. This is where your mother and I started. She scanned the old wood floor. You lived here for 4 years. With me for 18 months. I don't remember. You were a baby. She set the gift box on the table. What happens now? Tonight you shower, eat, and sleep. And tomorrow, you call the bank. Protect anything left in the joint accounts. He's my husband. He tried to take the cash and leave without you. She looked down. What else? You talk to your employer before the internet tells a worse version. Her face tightened. They already contacted me. Have you used the company card for wedding expenses? She hesitated. How much? About $1,200. Did they approve it? Number. Then tell the truth. I plan to repay it. Intentions don't change what happened. She lowered herself onto the couch. Are you going to lecture me all night? Number. Then what do you want? Nothing tonight. There has to be something. No performance. No dramatic promise. No apology designed to make me take you home. I want time. I said I'm sorry. You told people I was emotionally unstable. I didn't say unstable. What did you say? Unpredictable. Was I? Number. Did you tell guests I chose not to attend? She said nothing. Rachel. Yes. Why? I didn't want questions. You didn't just close a gate. You created a story explaining why I deserved to be outside. She began crying. Blake kept saying his parents would never accept me if they knew where I came from. They were actors. I know. You believed wealthy strangers would reject you for being an electrician's daughter, so you rejected the electrician first. I was afraid. I understand fear. You don't understand their world. I looked around the apartment. There was no world, Rachel. There was a rented truck, a website, and 2 people billing by the hour. She wiped her face. I feel stupid. You were deceived. That sounds kinder than I deserve. It's also true. She looked at me. Do you hate me? Number. Then take me home. That request showed she still did not understand. Number. Her expression hardened. You're punishing me. I'm changing what help looks like. What does that mean? You can stay here for 1 month without rent. After that rent is $700. She laughed in disbelief. You're charging me. Not tonight. You own this building. Yes. You have plenty of money. That doesn't make your bills my responsibility. How am I supposed to pay? You may still have your job. They'll fire me. If they do, the airport hotel needs housekeeping staff. She stared at me. You want me to clean rooms? I want you to consider honest work. I have a degree. You may also have no office job. You expect me to scrub toilets. I felt my anger rise for the first time. Number. My voice sharpened. Being turned away from my only daughter's wedding while carrying her mother's earrings was humiliating. Cleaning a bathroom is work. Rachel flinched. Sam remained near the door. You want me to suffer because you suffered, she said. No. I want you to learn that work does not reduce a person's value. I know that. You put my company truck on a security warning. She looked away. I made mistakes too, I said. That brought her eyes back. I paid bills without telling you. Covered rent when Blake's money failed. Put the Range Rover lease through a vendor account because you said you needed transportation for clients. Allowed you to believe you were independent when I was quietly holding everything up. Why? I wanted you to feel capable. That was dishonest. Yes, She seemed surprised by the answer. I thought hidden help was kind. It taught you that support appeared automatically. What else did you pay? 5 months of rent, insurance, furniture deposits, most of the wedding. Blake said his company bought the furniture. He lied. The honeymoon, I refused that. He said his father handled it. His father was selling retirement apartments on television last month. She closed her eyes. I hate you. The words hurt. I did not pretend they didn't. I believe you hate what I'm saying. I mean you. You may. You ruined my wedding. I stopped paying for upgrades. You let everyone laugh at me. I was 40 minutes away after you sent me home. You always have an answer. No. I have answers I should have given you years ago. She stood. What if I refuse the housekeeping job? Find another. What if I can't pay rent? Ask for more hours. Find a roommate. Move somewhere cheaper. You would let me lose this apartment. I will not secretly pay forever. Her anger gave way to fear. What if I need you? I wanted to say I would always come. That promise had become part of the problem. Call for an emergency. Blood fire or danger. What if I'm scared? You're allowed to be scared. What if I can't sleep? You'll survive a bad night. Dad, please. I stepped toward her, then stopped. I love you, Rachel. But I cannot make tonight disappear. She covered her face. I walked toward the door. Did you bring Mom's earrings? She asked. I stopped. Yes. Where are they? In the truck. I wanted them. I wanted to give them to you. Can I have them now? Number. She lowered her hands. Why? Because tonight you would use them as proof that everything has been repaired. They belong to me. They will. When? When receiving them means more than winning. I left. Inside the truck, I sat in the dark parking lot for nearly an hour. The upstairs light stayed on. At one point, Rachel appeared behind the curtain. She looked down at the truck. I looked up at her. Neither of us moved. Finally, she stepped away. I drove home. The Range Rover was recovered 2 days later from a hotel parking lot near the interstate. The wedding cash was missing. Blake sent Rachel messages. At first, they were apologetic. We were both under pressure. Your father staged everything. I can explain the business situation. Then he asked about the wedding money. Tell Daniel to release the investment funds. Your father owes us after what he did. We can still save this. When Rachel refused, his messages changed. You promised me access. You knew what I needed. Don't pretend you were innocent. She saved the messages, then blocked him. Rachel lost her job the following Monday. The wedding videos created unwanted attention, but that was not the only reason. She admitted using the company card and work hours for wedding arrangements. She repaid part of the money from her savings. The rest was deducted from her final paycheck. On Tuesday morning, she interviewed at the Blue Way Airport Hotel. The housekeeping manager, Patricia Gomez, did not offer her work as a favor to me. Patricia had managed hotels for 22 years and had no patience for entitlement. She took Rachel into a room recently vacated by a family with 4 children. Wet towels covered the floor. Cereal had been crushed into the carpet. Fingerprints covered the mirror. A used diaper sat in a trash can without a liner. What would you do first? Patricia asked. Rachel stood in silence, then answered honestly, I don't know. Patricia handed her gloves. Good. People who pretend to know everything are difficult to train. Rachel started the next morning. Her first week was terrible. Her back hurt. Her hands became red from cleaning products. She struggled to pull fitted sheets over mattresses. Guests left food beneath beds and wet swimsuits on furniture. One man snapped his fingers at her and demanded towels without looking away from his phone. A woman accused Rachel of stealing a bracelet that was later found inside a makeup case. Another guest called her the cleaning girl, while she was standing close enough to hear. At lunch on the 3rd day, Rachel called Sam. I can't do this. Are you injured? Number. Has someone threatened you? Number. Then finish today before deciding what you can't do. She finished. The next morning she returned. On Friday, a guest complained about streaks on a bathroom mirror. Rachel had already cleaned it twice. She entered the room, looked at the woman's expensive luggage, and felt the old anger return. You know, she said, my father owns part of one of the most successful wedding venues in Virginia. I don't need to stand here while you speak to me this way. The guest complained to Patricia. Rachel was nearly fired. Patricia brought her into the office. If you intend to use your father's name to escape ordinary accountability, leave now. The woman was rude. Guests are sometimes rude. She treated me like I was nothing. And you responded by announcing that your father has money. Rachel's face burned. Did the mirror have streaks? Yes. Then clean it. That's all. That is the job. Rachel wanted to quit. She walked to the employee entrance and stood outside for 10 minutes. Then she returned. She apologized, cleaned the mirror, finished the shift. The following week, a younger housekeeper recognized her from the wedding video. You're that bride. Rachel's first instinct was to lie. Number. The word escaped automatically. The woman looked at her phone. It is you. Rachel felt the old panic, the urge to control the image, to create a cleaner explanation. Then she stopped. Yes, she said. It was me. Did you really ban your dad? Yes. Why? Because I cared more about what strangers thought than what kind of daughter I was. The woman stared at her. That's messed up. Yes. Then they returned to folding towels. Nothing collapsed. Rachel discovered that telling the truth did not kill her. Her first paycheck was smaller than the amount she once spent on a handbag. She sat at the apartment table and divided it. Rent, electricity, bus fare, food. $48 remained. For the first time, she understood that money was not simply a number appearing because someone loved her. It was time, a sore back, 14 bathrooms, a guest snapping his fingers, a supervisor checking corners she hoped no one would notice. She sent me a photograph of the paid electric bill. No message. I saved it but did not reply. 2 weeks later, she sent a rent receipt. Again, no message. Again, I saved it. At the supermarket, she learned to compare prices by weight. She stopped buying coffee before work. She repaired a loose button instead of replacing the blouse. One evening, she was 7 cents short at checkout. The cashier waited while Rachel searched her purse. The old Rachel would have become angry from embarrassment. The new Rachel removed an orange from the belt. A woman behind her placed a dime on the counter. Rachel nearly refused, then accepted. Thank you. Pass it on, the woman said. Rachel carried her groceries home on the bus. She cried for reasons she could not fully explain. Not because she needed a dime, because a stranger with no reason to impress her had offered kindness without making her feel small. 3 months after the wedding, a letter arrived at my house. Rachel had written 5 pages by hand. She did not ask for money. She did not ask to come home. She wrote about the gate. Dad, I keep wanting to say Blake manipulated me. He did. But he did not choose the photograph. I chose it. I searched through my phone until I found one where your coat looked old and the Mercer logo was visible. I added the note about the truck. I told Ashley you were emotionally unpredictable because I wanted an explanation ready if anyone asked where you were. When I saw the truck on the entrance camera, I knew you had driven all that way. For a few seconds, I almost went downstairs. Blake stood behind me and said, "Handle it now, or my parents will know exactly where you came from." I typed the message anyway. I want to blame him for that sentence. I cannot blame him for my hand pressing send. I did not make one thoughtless mistake. I completed several deliberate steps. At the hotel, people often talk around me as though I am furniture. I used to believe workers became invisible because they had not achieved enough. Now I understand that the person refusing to see them is the one missing something. I am not asking you to forgive me. I only want you to know that I finally understand why saying sorry that night was not enough. I read the letter 3 times, then placed it beside a photograph of Susan. 1 week later, I answered, "Rachel Blake deceived you, but he did not create the part of you that was ashamed. Facing that difference matters. Your mother and I wanted you to have an easier life than we did. I confused protecting you from hardship with protecting you from responsibility. That was my mistake. I love you. Love does not erase what happened. It means I am willing to see what you build after it. Dad, we began exchanging letters. Not calls. Letters slowed us down. Rachel could not interrupt when a sentence became uncomfortable. I could not rush to comfort her, because I heard tears. She wrote about learning to clean a room correctly. I wrote about shutting down power to an entire motel because I mislabeled a panel during my first year in business. She wrote about counting coins for groceries. I wrote about eating canned beans for a week because a client delayed payment. She wrote about using my name to intimidate a guest. I answered, "A connection becomes another kind of uniform when you wear it to make someone else feel smaller." She replied, "I know." I was still trying to escape being ordinary. Winter arrived. Patricia moved Rachel into linen operations after noticing that she understood inventory and scheduling. The irony was not lost on either of us. The work she once found embarrassing became the first work in which she earned a promotion. She tracked missing sheets, changed wash schedules, reduced damaged inventory. A new employee ruined 6 duvet covers by mixing the wrong chemicals. The supervisor wanted her dismissed. Rachel asked whether she had been trained properly. She had not. Instead of firing her, Rachel stayed after work and repeated the process. 2 months later, that employee became one of the most reliable people on the team. Rachel wrote, "I thought leadership meant becoming important enough to give orders. Now I think it means being responsible for what happens after someone follows them." In February, Blake contacted her from a new number. He claimed he had changed. He had found investors in Florida. He wanted to meet. For one evening, Rachel considered it. Not because she loved him, because part of her still wanted to prove the wedding had not been completely meaningless. She drafted a message, then remembered the card box beneath his jacket. She deleted it. The divorce ended quietly. Blake did not fight once he understood no settlement would include my company land or investments. The wedding cash was never recovered. Rachel did not ask me to pursue him. "I already gave him enough of my life," she wrote. "I don't want to give him the rebuilding part, too." Exactly 1 year after the wedding, I walked into the Blue Way Airport Hotel. Rachel was behind the front desk, helping an elderly couple whose room was not ready. She apologized, found them chairs, brought coffee, checked the room status. Then she saw me. Her professional expression disappeared for 1 second. But she did not abandon the guests. She finished helping them first. Then she walked toward me. "Hello, Dad." "Hello, Rachel." We stood 3 feet apart. Neither of us knew whether a hug was allowed. "My break starts in 10 minutes. I'll wait." We sat in the breakfast area with 2 cups of terrible hotel coffee. Rachel placed an envelope on the table. "What is this?" "The first repayment." "For what?" "The wedding, the rent, the car. You can't repay all of that." "I know." "Then why begin?" "Because I spent years treating your help as proof that I deserved to receive. I need part of my life to become about returning." I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $100. Small compared with what I had paid. Heavier than the $30,000 gift I voided. "I accept." Relief crossed her face. "Thank you. I brought something too." I placed a folder on the table. She opened it. Inside was a job description for Junior Operations Coordinator at Willow Ridge Orchard. Rachel looked up. "I can't go back there." "You don't have to. Why offer it?" "Mara needs someone who understands housekeeping, linen operations, and guest service." "Does she know?" "She agreed to interview you." "Interview? You expected the job." Rachel looked down. "A year ago I would have. That is progress." She read the description. The position involved inspecting guest cottages, coordinating staff, managing inventory, and handling event problems. The salary was higher than her current pay, but not extravagant. She would report to Mara. Not to me. People might recognize me. Yes, they might laugh. Some may. Why would I put myself through that? Because running from shame gives it control. Does Mara hate me? Number. She should. She expects accountability. That isn't hatred. Rachel held the folder. "I want the interview. Then call her after your shift." I reached into my jacket. The velvet box fit inside my palm. Rachel recognized it. Her eyes filled. "Mom's earrings." "Yes." I opened the box. She did not reach for them. I don't deserve those. They were not a prize for perfect behavior. I was supposed to wear them at the wedding. I know. Why bring them now? Your mother left them to her daughter, not to a perfect bride. Rachel touched one pearl. Her hand had changed. The skin was dry. A small callus had formed near her thumb. I'm not ready. For the earrings, for what they mean. What do they mean? That Mom trusted me to carry something forward. I closed the box. I'll keep them until you're ready. Will you? Yes. She looked at me. I'm sorry. I know. I was ashamed of you. I know. I think I was more afraid someone would see that I wasn't as impressive as I pretended. They would have seen an electrician's daughter. I couldn't understand that was something to be proud of. Number, can you forgive me? I took a breath. I can forgive you and still remember. She nodded. I think that's fair. It will have to be. When we stood, Rachel opened her arms slowly. I stepped into them. She did not collapse. She did not ask me to solve anything. She simply held me. I missed you, she whispered. I missed you too. Mara interviewed her 2 weeks later. The meeting lasted almost 2 hours. Why do you want to work here? Mara asked. Because this is where I learned an event can look beautiful while everything underneath it is dishonest. How would you handle a bride who insulted an employee? I would protect the employee without turning the bride's worst moment into entertainment. What if the bride threatens a bad review? Then we accept the review. What if a relative arrives in an old company truck? Rachel looked down. We opened the gate. Mara hired her. Rachel's first months at Willow Ridge were difficult. Employees remembered the wedding. Some avoided her. Others watched closely, waiting for entitlement to return. Aaron still worked weekend events. On Rachel's third day, she asked to speak with him. I owe you an apology. Aaron looked uncomfortable. You didn't make the sign. No. I gave you the instructions. Then people online blamed security as though you chose to exclude my father. I shouldn't have commented on his truck. No, you shouldn't have. He seemed surprised. But I put you in that position, Rachel said. I'm sorry. Aaron did not tell her everything was fine. That mattered. I accept the apology, he said. But I'll remember that day for a long time. So will I. Rachel apologized to the servers who lost expected tips, to the kitchen staff whose food was wasted, to the band that packed without performing, to Mara for treating Willow Ridge like a stage instead of a workplace. She did not gather everyone for a dramatic speech. She approached people individually. She listened when they were angry. She did not defend herself. Then she worked. When a cottage pipe burst, she carried wet sheets downstairs. When a drunk guest shouted at a bartender, she removed him from the bar. When a florist's assistant became sick, Rachel spent 2 hours arranging greenery. During one wedding, a bride's manager demanded that all service workers use a side path so they would not appear in photographs. For 1 second, Rachel hesitated. The old instinct whispered that keeping the picture clean was harmless. Then she looked toward the front gate. No, she said. The manager frowned. They'll ruin the background. They're doing their jobs. We are paying for privacy. You are not paying to treat people like stains. The manager complained to Mara. Mara supported Rachel. The wedding continued. No one's life was destroyed because a catering assistant appeared behind a photograph. 6 months later, Rachel became event operations coordinator. Not because she was my daughter, because employees trusted her schedules. Guests trusted her explanations. Vendors trusted her word. 2 years after the failed wedding, another bride was scheduled to marry at Willow Ridge. Her name was Hannah. Her father, Mike, owned a transmission shop outside Richmond. He promised to arrive by noon. At 1:15, he had not appeared. Hannah was trying not to cry. My future mother-in-law said this would happen, she told Rachel. She thinks Dad is unreliable. At 1:25, an old utility truck turned onto the entrance road. The passenger door was dented. A ladder rack rattled above the cab. Mike climbed out wearing a dark suit that did not fit perfectly. His tie was crooked. Grease remained beneath 2 fingernails. I'm sorry, he said. A woman broke down with her kids. I couldn't leave the transmission apart. Hannah's future mother-in-law stepped onto the porch. Can someone move that truck before the photographer sees it? Rachel heard her. For 1 second, the world became another wedding entrance. An old vehicle, working hands, a person someone believed did not belong in the picture. Rachel walked towards the parking area. The future mother-in-law called after her. Please have him use the side entrance. Rachel did not answer. She reached Mike. You made it. Barely. That counts. She straightened his tie, then offered him her arm. The service entrance is closer, he said. We're not using it. She walked him through the main gate, past the farmhouse. Across the front lawn, the photographer lowered his camera. Hannah saw her father and began crying. Mike began crying too. Rachel stepped away before the photograph was taken. I had arrived early because Hannah's mother worked for Mercer Building Services. From the farmhouse porch, I watched my daughter open the gate for a man she might once have hidden. That was when I knew she had changed. Not because she suffered. Suffering alone does not make people kind. Not because she cleaned hotel rooms. Not because she repaid $100. Not because she apologized. She changed because after the pain ended when no one was forcing her, she chose a different action. That evening she came into my office wearing a simple blue dress. I think I'm ready, she said. I opened the desk drawer. The velvet box remained inside. I removed it. Rachel sat in front of the small mirror. I stood behind her. For a moment we both remembered another wedding morning. The gray suit in my truck. The photograph at the gate. The message asking me to disappear. I wish I could change that day, Rachel said. So do I. I can't. Number. What do we do with something we can't completely repair? We let it teach us without letting it own every day afterward. I fastened the first pearl, then the second. My fingers were still rough. Rachel placed her hand over them. I used to look at your hands and see everything I wanted to escape. What do you see now? The reason I ever had a life worth being proud of. We walked outside together. After the ceremony, Rachel and I stood near the gate while guests left. Mike drove past in his dented truck. He lowered the window. Thank you for helping me earlier, he told Rachel. You didn't need help, she said. You only needed someone not to stand in your way. He drove down the orchard road. Rachel watched until the truck disappeared. Then she looked at me. I understand now. What? The gate was never really about keeping you out. What was it about? Keeping the truth out. She took my hand. My daughter once believed family was something to hide when the cameras arrived and call back when the room went dark. She knows better now. Money can rent flowers, music, beautiful rooms, and strangers willing to play a part. It cannot buy loyalty. It cannot create character. And family should never have to present identification at the gate. So tell me honestly, would you have gone back and paid for the reception, or would you have done exactly what I did?